Breaking news at this hour, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that one of Michael Cohen's attorneys, quote, raised the possibility of a pardon with attorneys for the president after federal agents raided Mr. Cohen's properties in April. According to people familiar with the discussions, the president's lawyers, including Jay Sekulow, Rudy Giuliani, and Joanna Hendon, dismissed the idea of a pardon at the time, these people said, but at least one of them, Mr. Giuliani, left open the possibility that the president could grant Mr. Cohen one in the future, they said. We are joined now by phone by one of the reporters who broke this story, Michael Rothfeld, an investigative reporter for the Wall Street Journal. Michael, what is your reporting finding in terms of when the last contact might have been about pardons?
Well, this would have been, so the raid was in April, and then this would have been in the couple of months after that because things started to erode with Michael Cohen and the president, probably about May-ish, and then I think in July is when he went on George Stephanopoulos and, basically said, I'm going to protect my family, and, they're the ones that I'm loyal to. So by that time, the discussions were obviously over. And go ahead.
But, Michael, why wouldn't Michael Cohen's view of protecting his family include getting a pardon from the president?
Well, I mean, what we're reporting is that he was largely rebuffed, or at least there wasn't any immediate commitment made, at least in the conversations between his lawyer, Stephen Ryan, and the president's lawyers. That, as you noted, the most possibility was held out by Rudy Giuliani, who said, we're not going to have any discussions right now about a pardon, but maybe down the road if the president wants to do it. But that would have been way after Cohen had to go to trial and make decisions about whether he wanted to plead guilty. So that just wasn't what he was looking for.
Does your reporting find any sense of whether Michael Cohen gave up hopes for a pardon based on his own knowledge of Donald Trump and his interpretation of what he was hearing through his lawyers, or whether Michael Cohen's lawyers, in effect, advised him to not play for the pardon?
I don't know what the conversations between him and his lawyers were, but essentially he did. That lawyer, Stephen Ryan, after they reviewed all the documents seized, Cohen got a new lawyer, a criminal lawyer, to handle that case. Presumably, I mean, based on our reporting, Ryan would have conveyed to him that, the president's lawyers were not offering any kind of a pardon. And so Cohen felt like he had to, he felt like he was loyal to the president for a really long time and wanted something in return, and but it wasn't forthcoming, and that's kind of when he turned against the president.
Were there, in your judgment, knowing what you know about the case at this stage, were there any magic words that the president could have conveyed through Rudy Giuliani to Michael Cohen that would have held on to Michael Cohen's loyalty to the president?
That's hard to say. I mean, whether some kind of ambiguous potential promise could have been held out. But, the issue there is really obstruction of justice, and that's something that Congress is looking at. And Michael Cohen testified at the House Oversight Committee last week, and now the House is requesting information about pardons, potential pardon discussions from various other people associated with Cohen and Mr. Trump. So they're looking into that, and whether not just with respect to Cohen, but other people like Paul Manafort, in terms of whether anyone dangled pardons, which could potentially be obstruction of justice.
Michael, you've just teed it up perfectly for our next guest, a member of Congress, Michael Rothfeld, the Wall Street Journal, with tonight's breaking news. Thank you very much for joining us on this important story. Really appreciate it, Michael. Thank you. And we are joined now by Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell of California. He's a member of the Judiciary Committee and the Intelligence Committee in the House. Congressman Swalwell, your reaction to this Wall Street Journal breaking news report at this hour: lawyer for Cohen approached Trump attorneys about pardon.
Good evening, Lawrence. What I think is most striking is that they didn't shut it down. If the story is true, we're certainly going to get to the bottom of this. We have Mr. Cohen coming back on Wednesday. But two, why can't Donald Trump just come out and say, I'm not going to pardon Paul Manafort, I'm not going to pardon Michael Flynn, I'm not going to pardon Michael Cohen? He won't do that because he's trying to do anything he can, and he's not above doing anything to keep them loyal to him. Michael Cohen is testifying anyway. He has no life jacket. He's got no cooperation agreement with the Southern District of New York or the Mueller team, and he certainly is not getting a pardon from Donald Trump. I think that actually makes his testimony even more credible, and if you believe what he's saying, it's very damning for the president, and it gives us a responsibility to put back in place the rule of law in our country, which has just had a wrecking ball taken to it in the last 2 years.
Do you expect this Wall Street Journal report will lead to a new series of questions for Michael Cohen the next time you speak to him? It's going to be at the Intelligence Committee, and it's going to be behind closed doors.
The issue of whether the president is offering pardons or whether there are even discussions is something that we should definitely run to ground and explore, not just with Michael Cohen, because I think there are other witnesses who are similarly situated who the president has probably done this with, and of course showing that he has no loyalty to the pardon process when he gave Sheriff Joe Arpaio a pardon without going through any background check or Department of Justice policy. So yes, that's something we need to explore and make sure the American people know whether the president is corrupted and using this process in an inappropriate way.
Congressman, you're one of the key players on two of the most important committees investigating the president now, also the Judiciary Committee, where Chairman Nadler has sent out 81 requests for documents from individuals.
That's it?
Companies. Yeah, only 81. Government entities, individuals, companies. This really looks like the groundwork for what could be an impeachment investigation and the impeachment process, which would be held in exactly the same committee.
Yeah, well, 81, I'm sure, sounds like a lot if it's compared to 0. And 0 is what we had over the last 2 years. And 0 was what the American people was fed up with because there was 0 accountability on all of these abuses of power. So yes, we are looking at obstruction of justice. We are looking at abuse of power by the president, and we're looking at public corruption. And we have reason to look because of the way the president is cashing in on access to the Oval Office, the way that he's allowing foreign entities to stay in his hotel just across the street from the White House, and the way that he attacks the free press and attacks the rule of law. And as long as we can demonstrate to the American people that we're interested in making sure that the rule of law stands, because if you don't have it, you lose a free press, you lose free ideas, free markets, and a freedom to dream. So I think as long as we can articulate that to the American people and we show them we have a reason to look, they're going to be with us, and we're going to keep looking.
And presumably these document requests could obviously lead to more document requests and more requests for witness testimony.
Yeah, and certainly, you know, this is just the beginning, but these are individuals who, in what little we learned from the Intelligence Committee investigation, what little we learned in the minority over the last 2 years, what we've learned a lot from free press reporting, show us that there may be corruption at the White House, that the president, you know, his businesses, his inauguration, his campaign, you know, may not have operated above board as we would expect. So we have very good reasons to look. And again, we're going to do this not with Donald Trump justice, but with the rule of law guiding us every step along the way.
Congressman, we heard a new defense from the president this weekend to the charge that he openly asked for Russia's help during the campaign, asking Russia to find Hillary Clinton's emails and make them public. We just showed the video of Katie Tur at the time on the campaign trail asking the president about that, and he stood by it. He was very serious about it. His new defense is that that was all a joke. What do you make of that defense?
There are a lot of people who can make jokes, but Donald Trump is not one of them. This is a guy who literally tweets on Sunday morning at Saturday Night Live and calls them fake news. Second, if it was a joke, Russia wasn't joking because they followed his instructions and they kept hacking. And third, I would ask the president, were you joking when you told Lester Holt that you fired James Comey to get rid of the Russia investigation? Were you joking when you said, I love WikiLeaks as they continued to release hacked and stolen emails? And were you joking when you sided with Vladimir Putin over the U.S. intelligence community? Donald Trump may be a joke, but he was not joking when he did all of those. Congressman Eric Swalwell, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. My pleasure. Thank you. And coming up,